Well, that was insane. Poor Things, starring Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe, Rami Youssef, Christopher Abbott, and more, is about Bella Baxter, who's brought back to life by an unorthodox scientist who runs off with a lawyer on a whirlwind adventure across the continents. Free from the prejudices of her time, she grows steadfast in her purpose to stand for equality and liberation. Most of the movie reviews that I've done over the last month or so, I have gone and I've seen them during the day on Friday, and then I'll go to work from usually about 4 to 9, and then I get home and I do a review. The main reason why I like to do it like that is because while I'm driving around working, I give myself a lot of time to think about the movie. I give myself a lot of time to formulate my thoughts and kind of and jot down some general ideas that I want to say in my review. Now, for this movie, I didn't write down anything, and I'm just kind of going on a whim right now because I didn't really think about it that much while I was working because this movie didn't really stick with me that much. It was good. I generally enjoyed it, and I don't think that the themes and the ideas that it commentated on were really that new or something that I really had to think about that much. And that might just be because of some personal history with the topics that are in this movie, but I wasn't really left with that much to chew on from this movie. And that's not to say that this movie doesn't have absolutely amazing acting. Emma Stone, I think, is going to get nominated for an Oscar. Her and Lily Gladstone are 1 and 2 right now, I think, in that race. I think that Mark Ruffalo was fantastic in this movie, and I'm usually not the biggest Mark Ruffalo fan. Willem Dafoe was great, but Willem Dafoe's great in literally everything. He always gives 110%. I thought that the story was really engaging and it took it to a spot that I really didn't see this movie going to. So, minor spoiler, this movie really devolves into a commentary on sex work. And I mentioned that I've had previous history with, and I know that I mentioned it before, but I spent a decent amount of time researching sex work, some of the stigmatization that comes along with it, and a whole lot of aspects that come to sex work because of research projects that I did in school. But I would like to say that I'm pretty decently educated on the issues of sex work, what goes on in like current society with it. So maybe that's why I wasn't left with too much to chew on. But I really did appreciate the dialogue because it came to the kind of the same conclusion that I did. I feel like some people might look at this movie and they're going to take away the wrong thing, that it might be glorifying it. And then there's going to be other people that might take away the complete opposite idea, that it's completely terrible. But it's really in a gray area, and I think that this movie does a really good job at showing that. And I think that a lot of people on both sides of the political spectrum are going to look at this and see what they want to see, whereas in reality this movie really teeters a gray line, and it creates a pretty solid dialogue if you really pay attention to this movie. I just don't know how many people are going to actually do that. So again, I appreciate the dialogue that it's trying to create. It didn't leave me personally with that much to chew on because of my education on the topic prior. It came to the same conclusion that I have sort of come to before. But again, I appreciate this movie for what it did. I was not expecting it to go into a dialogue on sex work, but again, I appreciate it. Now, on a technical level, this movie is phenomenal. I think that this is the most well shot movie of the year. I think that the cinematography was insane. Just the stylistic choices to go from black and white to color and when they did it, among many other things. I think that the camera work, the set design was beautiful. How they showcased every single city, and just showing Bella Baxter, Emma Stone's character, going through this world and growing up. I really, really, really want to emphasize like just how amazing Emma Stone was in this movie. To go from the first 15 minutes of this movie where she's going around clapping like this and not having a clue in the world to what is going on, but she feels the same every single scene. But when you get done with the movie, you realize how much progression that she's made, because every little scene, it's so subtle, it's so minuscule, but every single scene she changes just a little bit and you barely notice it. And there's no like big moment where she has like these epiphanies about the world. It's just so sudden, and that's how humans are. Like our progression is so sudden, or is so subtle that you barely realize it. And they do an amazing job of orchestrating her from going from basically an infant who barely knows how to walk to the end of the movie, and she's sitting there completely normal-ish. I mean, there's still some differences with her that she still clearly has to develop, but the character growth of this movie is insane. The only negatives that I really have for this movie is that it definitely does drag. I feel like every single city that they go to, every single sequence, because it's kind of broken up into chapters, I feel like they could definitely have shaved off a solid 10 to 15 minutes in just about every single chapter. This movie ends up being 2 hours 21 minutes. I honestly think that it could have been an easy 147, 157, but I think that because of that, that's what made it so like the changes of Bella Baxter so subtle. And I didn't really mind seeing the extra fluff of this movie because I enjoyed myself in the theater just watching this movie. And then the other complaint that I have is that, and it sounds really weird to say, but just how much nudity that there was in this movie. Like, I don't mind nudity in movies as long as it works and it makes sense in the constructs of the stories. And obviously, when you're giving a dialogue on sex work, showing the sex work is something that you should be doing. But, like, this movie spent a lot of time doing that. And that was, I think, to drive home some of the messages and themes that they were trying to get across. But at some points, it honestly just became distracting, and it's like, okay, we get it. You don't have to just show so much to the point where it does take at least a little bit, in my opinion, away from the story. And definitely with the final chapter when she gets back home and they introduce a new character, it's just like, this really wasn't that necessary, because they had already established the entire idea of people wanting to own Bella like property, and then they just bring in this other guy, and just it's so on the nose with how much he just wants to enslave her as his property. And it really just, it doesn't add anything to the movie outside of one funny shot at the end of it. That's definitely where I think that they could have trimmed off the most time, because the movie felt over 15 minutes before the final shot, and you felt like you got the entire message, you got the entire theme, and you didn't really need that much more. But that's still not to say that I didn't enjoy this movie. I had a really good time with it. I think that this is something that a lot of people should see. See this movie with an open mind. I gave it a solid 4 out of 5 over on my Letterboxd. Make sure to go follow me over there. I don't have anything else, so make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Let me know what you thought of Poor Things down in the comments below, and we will see you in the next movie review.